The first meeting much better than you
Kia ora,
did.
Neil. Can you hear us okay?
You would say that, but Mike, you would.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, he's got us.
Yes, the mic system needs to remove that. don't we?
Yeah. Oh,
Oh, is it really got hot?
It's like that's a hot mic. When it's weird, it's not a hot mic.
Right.
when it's on.
All right, I think we are all here.
Someone's doing those.
Yep.
You've got to turn your mic on.
Yeah, we just need to turn our mics on to
Yeah,
speak,
Turn that one there.
Other one.
and then the other person needs to
Oh,
turn
and then
theirs on.
turn it off.
Turn it off.
Yeah. The constant reminder.
Yes, okay, well, maybe we'll make a start, and then I can explain my role in all of this. I will start with karakia. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa, te moana he rui ha. Kia hora te marino, kia whakapapa, po nama te moana. He hui rahi mā tātou i te rangi nei. Aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou i a tātou kātou. Hongai, huye, tātou. Okay, right. So we'll get cracking. I'm only here to officiate over the selection of the chair and the deputy chair, but there's just a couple of other things to just wrap up as we get to that point. So there's no apologies. Confirmation of agenda. There is an addition of a presentation after paper 7.1, introduction to CEDAM. So I do need to move. That will be accepted. Could I have a mover? Payment, thank you. And a seconder? John, thank you. We don't need to confirm the minutes because they were signed at the end of the last training by the chair. So they're just there for noting. There are no actions for the joint committee. And actually we can go right into item 7.1, the joint committee chair, deputy chair election and the adoption of these standing orders. You've all had the packs. You've been through all this before, and it's really the opportunity now, once we've determined the voting procedure, then to actually do call for the chair and the deputy chair. So you see the recommendations. That joint committee resolves the voting option from 1 through to 5, and I don't intend to read that out, but can I have a mover and a seconder?
Voting system, please.
Yeah, for the voting system.
Happy to second.
Okay, thank you. And now what is the preference? Voting system A, voting system B?
Majority.
Majority? Okay, so voting system B. We'll put that. Melanie? And yes, I think. And so all those in favour of voting system B, election by the majority of the members, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Thank you. So that's passed. Right, that's pretty simple. So I think we can now go to the calling of nominees for the chair.
Can I move Councillor Neil Gillespie?
We just use our microphones
Sorry?
because this is being recorded.
Apologies. Can I please move Councillor Neil Gillespie as chair?
Is there a seconder?
Which button do I put? Left or right?
The one with the talky face on it.
Okay. Cool. Seconded.
Don't need that close to you.
Thank you. Okay, so are there any other nominations? No? All right, well then, given that's the case, I declare that Councillor Neil Gillespie has been appointed the chair of the Otago Civil Defence and Emergency Management Committee. Congratulations, Neil.
I'm guessing he's happy to take it well.
Thank you, and I appreciate the nomination. I guess going forward, I'm probably not going to try and chair this from here. So, can I leave it for you, Peter, to do the deputy, and then hopefully the deputy will chair the meeting for me. I think try and do that on Teams on Zoom is probably going to be problematic unless someone's got a different view.
No, that's perfectly fine. We've sort of anticipated that.
Funny that.
So we will now call for nominations of the deputy chair.
I would like to dominate.
Very Freudian
I
slip.
And you must have been looking at your husband.
Hang on a minute, I think I might be the chair now. Central Otago taking over.
Roger. Now, is there a seconder to that nomination? Thank you, Mayor Baker. Okay, so we have the nomination. All those in favour of that Mayor Jock is the deputy chair.
Aye.
Against? Perfect.
You didn't think you had a job.
I now hand over.
Neil isn't here.
And you can bring you up here. It might be easier.
You'll have to. I'm sure Neil can do it from over there. Sorry, John.
You'll be all over it, buddy.
What medal hold my hand? I am not standing. I'll leave that for that.
The good thing, Jock, is that you got Matt there. He'll make sure you get it right.
I trust you're right.
Right.
Mr. Chair, so I'm just installing the
And I do apologise for not being there in person. I'm in Christchurch, working out of the home office of one of my sons. So otherwise, I would prefer to have been there, but I couldn't change it. So thank you for understanding that. And I'll leave it all over to Jock now.
Thank you, Neil. I've been blessed.
once and take finger off. When it's
Just once,
when-
just push it
Yeah,
once.
when it goes
You see it
red,
red,
you're
yep.
on.
Right,
Left and right. You push it again, yeah, there you go.
Yep, right, we're into it. Right, we have a recommendation here, number 5, adopting the standing orders of the Otago Regional Council. Moved. Mel. Second, John. All those in favour? Aye.
Aye.
Carry. Right.
Presentation.
And Erica's here? Oh, Erica's online. Next item on the agenda is an introduction to CDM presentation by Erica. Erica online. Welcome, Erica.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Just give me one moment, please, just while I share my screen and get this presentation up for you. Okay, I'm just not sure if you have the right screen there. Just one moment, I'll try that again. Apologies. Let's try that. Can someone just confirm you're seeing just one slide there, please?
Yep.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Again, good afternoon. Good afternoon, members. My name's Erica Andrews. I'm the Stakeholder Engagement Advisor with Emergency Management Otago. As a follow-on from your declaration workshop this morning, it gives me pleasure just to be able to provide a bit of an overview of civil defence emergency management. I should only take around 5 or 10 minutes of your time. So we've had a busy number of years in civil defence. We've had around 98 state of emergencies, 2 national state of emergencies and around 97 state of local emergencies over the past 18 years or so. So there's been, it's been quite a busy time for civil defence across the country. Here's just a bit more of an idea on the map of the spread of these emergencies across New Zealand. Again, just noting the different dates of that first slide. But of more importance is just to sort of raise awareness around, that our weather events are becoming more frequent, more intense, and communities who may not necessarily have been previously impacted, are now considered at risk. I think it's important to note in terms of the projections that the Insurance Council of New Zealand have provided there on the left-hand side. They seem to be, sort of accurate. And it's a really good reminder for us that, these events will continue across the country. Of note, that every sort of dollar that is spent on reduction, though, does save between $4 to $13 apparently in response and recovery. So that's just something to think about as we talk about risk reduction activities. So what sort of events, what sort of events is impacting our country? So mostly, as I'm sure most of you will be aware, it's severe weather and flooding events. They account for around 4 or 5 of those declarations. And there seems to be a bit of a cluster, between around February and July on when declarations are made, and the spikes align with known weather systems, as you can see there. Across Otago, there's a bit of a snapshot of some recent emergencies. Most of you will be familiar with a number of these, particularly, Clutha just last month. There was the wind event that had a huge impact on infrastructure and our rural communities. Dunedin City and Clutha declared, I'm getting a lot of feedback. I'm not sure why that might be. It might just be my setup, but just to let you know, I am getting lots of feedback on my headset. Dunedin City and Clutha declared October last year. We had a severe weather event resulting in flooding and evacuations of a number of people. The declaration in Queenstown Lakes in September 2023, that was made due mainly to flooding and debris risk, along with evacuations of some of those communities. And then sort of heading back 5 years or so prior to that, Dunedin City was impacted by ex-cyclone Fihi. And then a broader declaration across the region was made in July 2017 as a result of heavy rainfall causing flooding across mainly Waitaki and Dunedin City. So that sort of provides, we do get these events, as you know, across Otago. So they're certainly not going away anytime soon. So just a bit of an overview on a hazard and then when does it become an emergency. I mean, the description's pretty clear there. We have a number of hazards across our region, but we define it as an emergency when it starts to create an immediate threat to life, health or property, and that then requires a significant and coordinated response under the CEDAM Act 2002. The Act also provides us with a definition of the term emergency. I don't need to read that out to you. However, in terms of the work that we do, it's defined under the Act. As you'll all know, councils do have specific legislative responsibilities to manage our hazards and risks and to plan and prepare for emergencies. And there's a number of key legislation that supports that. So in terms of definition of the Act, it's to provide for sustainable management of our hazards. It helps, we need to encourage and enable our communities to achieve that acceptable level of risk, and it requires local authorities to plan for all our activities and programs across 4 Rs. But just something to point out, Section 64 does set out the duties of the local authorities, and importantly, local authority must be able to function to the fullest possible extent, even at a reduced level during and after an emergency. So it's really important that we act locally, coordinate regionally and support nationally. I'm sure you're aware that the Honourable Mark Mitchell is the Emergency Management and Recovery Minister. He's extremely supportive of our work and has spent quite a bit of time in the Otago region. That's sort of a graph there just to demonstrate the connection that we all have across our communities, our local authorities, then across the group and our National Emergency Management Agency. We work with many partners and stakeholders. We're all civil defence. Often, you may see reference maybe in the media or something like that, where is civil defence? And actually during response, it's really important that we talk about how we are all civil defence, including our communities. But you will see there in particular, we reference our emergency services partners, our welfare coordination groups, we have lifelines, utilities, and a whole iwi, a whole lot of people that we all worked together with to ensure that we're as prepared as possible. So every council, we've just gone through this afternoon, must be a member of our Regional Civil Defence Emergency Management Group. Your role is clear under Section 17 of the Act. And again, I don't think I need to read that out to you, but it's very clear under the Act what the group's function is. Just a little bit about the structure. So you'll see that we have a number of territorial authorities. The Otago Regional Council is the administration authority for emergency management Otago, and they provide governance. The group, CEDM Group, provides governance, accountability, strategic planning, and regional policy. And I'm sure Matt will be talking about the group plan that's underway at the moment. CEOs, senior reps of emergency services and other co-opted members form our coordination executive group. And council staff. So we have staff embedded in each of our territorial authorities who provide emergency management expertise to the group. So just a little bit about how we are funded in the budgeting process. It's a pretty clear budget development process that's undertaken. The annual business plan's developed, that's then shared with the Chief Executive of the ORC, and it's reviewed prior to going to KEG, and once KEG makes any adjustments or confirms supports, that then forwards to yourselves as a joint committee. You then consider the draft budget, make any amendments, and then it goes to Regional Council to ratify and fund through the regional targeted rate. So there's 4 R's of emergency management: risk reduction, readiness, response, and recovery. And I'll just quickly go through each of those just to provide a little bit more of a definition. And more importantly, how you can support this mahi. So I mentioned earlier that for every dollar spent on reduction, it saves between $4 and $13 in response and recovery. So it's quite a significant number. And how can we do that? We can do that by supporting funding for programs that may mitigate the impacts of natural hazards and support council's decisions for reducing exposure to risk through district planning, coastal adaptation, etc. And as well, support any initiatives that will increase resilience across our communities. In terms of readiness, supporting our group plan, our CEDM group to plan and prepare for emergencies. We really encourage you to take an active interest in your council's emergency management arrangements and promote and encourage the preparation of community resilience and recovery plans and support our priorities to strengthen community connectedness. We have a really we have a community resilience strategy that will be up for review next year. 2023 it was developed, but that really defines some of those objectives in terms of increasing connectedness and building capability and enabling and empowering our communities. So we look forward to reviewing that in the next year or so. So during response, so defined as action taken immediately before, during, or directly after an emergency to save lives, and how elected members can support our response. It's really important we have those really strong relationships with our controllers, and you're sharing information back into the response from the community. Champion the response efforts and direct community members towards the right place to get the support that they may need. It's really, I'd be most grateful if you had the opportunity to dispel rumours and correct information, which inevitably does pop up during response. Just a couple of additional responsibilities for mayors and chairs. Reiterate supporting the controller, sharing information amongst your other councillors, having a visible presence in the community to help maintain public confidence is really important. The community would like to see their elected members during response, and of course such a conduit through liaising with external agencies, including central government. So into recovery, you can support it. Recovery is multifaceted, long running. Of note is that media take an interest in recovery. So we need to be prepared for some close scrutiny. We incorporate recovery activities immediately during response. So we can start to build a picture of what that might look like in the medium and long term for our communities. So supporting recovery is, it's really important that we hear what our community is telling us. There'll be a number of people who are working on recovery, and I know most of you in the room have been involved in this in some way or another. And it's just showing some political leadership to ensure that appropriate scrutiny and provision of the resources to the recovery team is suitable. Look, I know I have whizzed through this. There's a whole lot of other important business that you have to get through today, but there is some written material that's available to take away to your elected members, and including top tips and sort of a bit more information on what I've just gone through now. So thank you for listening. I do see there was some messages in the chat, and I'll just escape out of here. Thank you for listening, and I'm open to any questions, as is Matt. Oh, sorry. Someone's just asked me to turn my volume down. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Oh, no, I think it's coming from the council chambers. Just, it might be a bit loud in there with the microphones on.
Okay, apologies, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just through the chair, I'll just indicate there's a number of packs we put together for you and your councillors to take away today. So if you don't mind distributing those amongst your elected cohort, we'd appreciate that. Just some basic information there around before, during, after emergencies. Cheers.
Any questions, further questions for Erica in the room?
Thank you.
Thank you for delivering that, Erica. I've got a question just around the community readiness. You're saying it's to be reviewed next year, 27, 28?
Sorry, 26.
26. There's nothing like a good old-fashioned crisis to bring out the good and the bad. And we hear everything that we do get right, and we hear more so everything we get wrong. So due to a recent event, I heard what we got wrong. So but I take away from it, it's a learning curve, and we're going to be better for it and make us more resilient moving forward. So
Absolutely. Thank you.
right, moving on to 7.2. We'll move on to item 7.2 now, coordinating executive group chair report. And the purpose of this report is to provide an update on key matters arising from the Otago Civil Defence Emergency Management KEG meeting held on the 21st November 25.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take this one. So, I suppose he's done a runner. I was going to acknowledge the first thing we did at KEG, similar to today, was appoint the chair for this term, and just acknowledging Steve, who took on that role previously, and did a great job. And this year, in his absence, which is always the way, the risk if you don't turn up, you get given the job. So Peter's been delegated chair for this term, but was happy to do so. He was out of the route, so I took care of the balance of the meeting. So Peter will chair KEG for the remainder of this 3-year term. The balance of the report covers the items that were discussed as part of that KEG meeting. Still a few actions that had been discussed in the prior term that have carried through around the after action review from October 2024, and also the discussion about the upcoming exercise, which I assume will be subject to some further discussion today. So, look, just happy to answer any questions on the paper if there are any. Otherwise, we'll just take that as read and move on from there.
Yeah, Tamer?
Thank you. I just had a couple. The KEG minutes noted the continued requirement for strengthened workforce capability, and that one of the after action review things was directing councils to confirm capacity for 2 shifts. Is there a time frame on that?
No, not specifically. I would expect that it'll be followed up with CEs before the next KEG meeting, just to make sure. So that there was some discussion on that, and it's ultimately the CEs that will be responsible for confirming their council can staff 2 full shifts, and it'll be reported back at the next KEG meeting. So I would expect that's when it'll either confirmed or otherwise confirm what the plan will be to ensure that that's achieved.
Richard. Thanks for that. We had a meeting yesterday of the Lifeline Utilities Committee, which I was elected co-chair of, along with Nicole from NZTA. Yeah. So did it come up in the debrief? An issue came up at that meeting from several of the players. I think one electricity provider, network provider, and a telecommunications provider, that they weren't aware that the group ECC was activated. Did that come up in this discussion?
Yep. No, it didn't come up in the KEG discussion.
Something to follow up on that later. Thank you.
Neil, see you got your hand up there.
Yeah, thank you. Took me a while to work out how to do that, but I got it sorted out. Just a couple of questions about the KEG. Sorry, the first one's escaped me, so I'll go to my second one. Hopefully I'll remember my first one. What's the connection between this group and the KEG in terms of meetings and those sort of things? Is it a public meeting for the KEG, or is it just a get together, or how does that work?
No, so KEG is defined in legislation. Its purpose is to deliver on the intent of the group, and provide advice to this group as well. So it's the executive group that largely delivers on the expectations of this committee, obviously made up of council chief executives and senior officials from emergency services and emergencies.
Thanks. So you come to our meetings. Do we go to your meetings?
No, you would maintain visibility of those meetings through these chair reports and review of minutes, etc.
Yep. Thank you. The second question, the first question I've forgotten, but I'll remember and probably ask it at some other opportune time.
Do we have any more questions? Following that, then recommendation here is that the Joint Committee notes this report. Do I have a mover? Mayor Tamer, and the seconder, Mayor Mel. Right, we'll move on to 7.3, the group manager update. The purpose is to update the Joint Committee on work activity completed for the year to date, 2025.
No.
You'll see two recommendations there on page 25. I'd just like to add a third one around noting the partnership agreement. So apologies, that is an oversight. You'll see that there are two attachments to this report, both the work plan update and the Otago Sedum partnership agreement as well. Just noting the partnership agreement was endorsed by all councils by resolution. It defines roles, responsibilities for all parties there across a number of areas. I won't go into that into any depth today, but can certainly answer any questions moving forward. And if there's appetite for a follow-up paper or presentation on that, we can work our way through that as well. In terms of the substantive update, I'm happy to say in terms of staffing, we have appointed one person into the administration role that is currently vacant. That person's due to start at the end of January, and we have a preferred candidate that's been identified and accepted a verbal offer for the team leader role as well. So with that in mind, we're not currently carrying any vacancies, which is great. Probably the main focus of my report today will be on emergency management system reform, acknowledging that there's a broader project at the moment, as with everything else being reformed centrally. That will focus on a new emergency management build. It'll focus on a number of treasury bids for system improvement in the operational systems space, as well as an increase in terms of oversight and assurance from the national agency, and I'll talk about that in a little bit more depth in a minute, as well as setting some national standards around training capability, etc., making the function of some of these committees a little bit better as well in terms of defining roles, responsibilities, things like that. So there's a whole movable feast in this space at the moment. So we'll choose to focus on probably the assurance piece, as that's probably going to hit us first. Noting that there's going to be proposed a three-tiered model for assurance, one starting with self-assurance, self-assessment. Secondly, one on system assurance and how we form a standard at a sector level, and then you're looking at external assurance around site visits from NEMA. And some definite change in language there from the national agency away from assurer to more of a regulatory setting, which we haven't heard from that agency before. So we don't really know what that's going to mean, but it's clear from the narrative coming from that agency that there is going to be higher expectations and transparency required in that space. We will note in terms of how the group is currently staffed, we don't have anyone undertaking this role focused in that space. So that will be something we have to consider as part of particularly our group plan, long-term plan moving forward around actually how we meet those expectations. There's a lot of work, as you can appreciate, in aligning regional data information as well as our outputs activities across all councils and Emergency Management Otago in terms of how we can demonstrate that we are meeting those standards. So there's a lot in that space that we need to review and understand. The second piece in that reform, and it's as we love acronyms in our sector, it's the EMS OS, which is the Operational Systems project. That is a number of treasury bids that NEMA are working on at the moment. This is seen as the anchor project for reform. That will be relevant to us, particularly in the intelligence space, as they look to align particularly national data sets, house those, and also supply a number of common operating picture tools for us to use as well. There's a secondary piece in terms of a business case for a national warning system, as well as their website and other tools. And the third area is we'll call it SIMS for NEMA. So it's an operational platform to be utilised in the National Crisis Management Centre. There's a fourth detailed business case that we'll be looking at for the next financial year, and we'll call that SIMS for sector. And that's operational platforms for regional and local use. So again, that's quite a complex beast to unravel. As you can appreciate, there are a number of different models for seed and delivery about the country, and trying to figure out what tools will complement all of those will be quite a significant piece of work. So that's an area that we'll be leaning into quite heavily particularly for the next 12, 18 months. Just for noting for this committee, there are a number of 7 group managers on the governance board for that. There's 3 of us around the country. I'm the representative for the South Island on that governance board, as well as colleagues from Tairāwhiti and Waikato. Happy to take any questions on those updates before I move to the work plan.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Good work, Matt. The KPMG review report, is that available for us to see?
Good question. I'll have to circle back with that. I'm not sure of the status of that report or whether it's supply and confidence. I'll have to review that and circle back.
Matt, perhaps even Sean, I mean, obviously we've got a whole raft of government reform and they all seem to be tripping over each other. And in terms of one of the simplifying local government reforms is whether they aggregate more services that the regions provide to the centre. And I'm just wondering whether there's any suggestion that there may be more and greater centralisation of civil defence functions planned as part of that by government.
Look, it's interesting you raise that, Mike. At the moment, there is actually a ministerial imperative around supporting the regional tier as a priority as part of the reform. So that would seem to not terribly well align with other reform efforts. So that's the message we've got in the SEDM space. It's a clear objective as part of the MSIP program around supporting that regional tier. But beyond that, I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah. A week's a long time in politics, as they say. So who knows? But yeah, it'd just be interesting to see. And that was raised this morning at the Mayoral Forum as well.
Neil, I see you have your hand up there, mate.
Yep, thanks, Jock. Just a couple of questions. I'm assuming that the reference in paragraph 8 to the Emergency Management Leadership Group, that's all the group managers around the various emergency management groups within the regions. Is that right?
Yeah, so there are 2 sector groups that are relevant here. One of them being EMLG, as it's defined, and that's all the group managers in the country with senior NEMA representatives sitting on that. We also have a second group for sector-focused collaboration, and that's special interest group that's formed under the regional council construct Te Uru Kahika.
Oh, yeah, cool. And I note at paragraph 4 in the executive summary, you reference the 2026-36 group plan. I might have seen it, or I might have not. Someone might point me to that I have seen it and have got it, or if I haven't, can I get it?
No, so we're putting the final touches on the first draft of that document.
Oh, yeah, 26. Yeah, sorry, I should have picked that up. Silly me. Is there a current one then?
Yes, there is. Yep, that's available on the website, and we can copy as well.
Yep. Maybe just flick the reference out, just a good refresher, prepare for when we see that new document.
Do we have any more questions? Anyone online would like to put your hand up or in the room?
Mr. Chair, I'll just add to that. In my day job role at the Joint Centre for Disaster Research in Wellington, where I am occasionally, I'm on an advisory panel to the Director of CDM through the Chief Science Advisor. So we've got another access to influence in central government through that means as well.
Thank you for that. Right, well, we will move on. And does anyone out there want to make a recommendation that we receive this Matt's report?
Oh, sorry.
I'll give you a quick update on the work plan as well.
Oh. Okay, Matt's just going to give a quick update on the work plan.
So largely happy for you to take the document as read. You can see we've sort of simplified colour coding around tracking of delivery in particular. Just want to acknowledge or point out some information around the appendices at the back, particularly when it comes to training capability. We've defined that. It's aligned with our training capability development strategy. We've defined standards for delivery at response, team member level, function leader level, as well as controllers. So there has been a real overhaul for us, and in some instances, it may appear that you've taken a bit of a step backwards in terms of trained capable people. That doesn't necessarily mean that your cohort that you've had there for some time isn't capable. It just means that they haven't aligned to the current strategy as we've defined it with the training outputs that we've got. The second area as well, particularly in the community resilience space, again, we have a defined framework for how we support those community groups with emergency hubs for community-led groups and then council-led framework as well. Acknowledging again, this is as it relates to the strategy. There are many groups that have formed and responded over many years who are highly capable, who don't necessarily align to this strategy there as well. So even though you might be seeing some tables here that might be a little bit disquieting, I can assure you many of those groups are well exercised. They just don't necessarily align with the current framework of the new strategy. But happy to take any questions in relation to that work plan report or any of those appendices prior to moving the report.
Neil.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of things. The recent response to the weather in Queenstown and Clutha, I'm assuming that just like the October, the previous one, you had the review of actions taken during that. The same sort of thing will take place for that last event and the next one.
Yes, look, yeah, absolutely. So we're undertaking an internal review. There are a number of debriefs that have already occurred with more occurring within the next week, and we will provide a report in relation to those debriefs with a number of corrective actions, and when it comes out of those reports, that will come back to the committee.
Cool, thank you. And the follow-up to that is you made the reference to the training situation. It'd be fair to say that the table 1 on page 49 of our agenda, what you're saying is that there's nothing to be concerned about here. It's just a situation that's arise from a change that the Royal We will get on top of in due course.
Yes, that's correct.
Cool, thank you.
Right, Matt, you done? Done. No further questions for Matt? Would anyone like to move to receive Matt's report? John and Mia Tamer is second. So 7.4 on the agenda, finance update. The financial performance from 1 July to 31 October 2025.
Again, happy to take report as read with a recommendation that this committee notes the report, just acknowledging 2 areas, a small underspend at the moment of 122,000, and also identifying 28,000 of unbudgeted response activity. There was some commentary within the coordinating executive group, in particular in how we start to budget for and allow for these events. So that's something for me to go away and work on as part of long-term planning over the next week while.
Any questions for Matt?
Thanks, Jock. Just to comment on that last point, because it was raised, as Matt said, at Keeg, and I suppose it goes right back to that graph that Erica showed about the fact that we're almost constantly now in emergencies every year. There's not these big gaps when we suddenly get events, and so having to create some funding streams to anticipate that probably a wise thing for us to all be thinking about. So that's the base of that conversation.
All I'd like to say, Matt, is good luck. It'd be like trying to find a needle in a haystack and budget for a winter event. So, how do you budget for one of them? Good luck. No further questions for Matt. Would someone like to move that they accept the financial report? Mel, Councillor Mayor Mel, sorry, and a seconder. Yes, second. We'll move on to 7.5, the Lifelines update. The purpose of this report is to inform the Joint Committee of the activity undertaken at the Otago Lifeline Utilities Group meeting on the 3rd of September 2025. Page 88 of your handout.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, committee. I am Mel Banks. I'm the Program Manager for the Lifelines program for Otago. Happy to take the report as read and note the updates from the meeting on September 3rd. I would like to add, we did have the most recent meeting, as John mentioned, on Wednesday this week, where 2 co-chairs were appointed, John Mitchell being one and Nicole Fouts from NZTA being the other. Nicole is absent on sick leave at the moment, so we're waiting for her to confirm her co-chair appointment there. Key conversations from the Lifelines meeting was around the October weather event and in particular generators and the distribution of that, which is aligning to one of the programs that we are creating as the generator management plan for Otago. So the delivery on that will be delayed a little bit to capture all the learnings from the weather event, as well as the telecommunications forum, who are the sector coordinating entity for telcos, have expressed the interest to participate in the development of the generator plan, and also the Rural Support Trust as they coordinated the distribution of generators through the farms in the area. So there's ongoing discussions and expansion of the generator plan to capture everything there. Happy to take any questions.
Any questions for Mel on the floor or online? Neil?
Yeah, sorry to be a bit of a pain, but I'm just trying to get my head around a few things, and with not being there, I probably couldn't have asked some questions beforehand. So just thanks, Mel. The Lifelines group itself, I'm assuming when I look at the minutes from the September meeting, is that the people that are part of that, so like district councils would have their own representation on that group?
Yes, in the roading and water capacity as a utility.
Okay, and then so the council will choose who that is. It could be an elected member or a staff member, either or.
Either or, yes.
Yeah, and does ORC have any role there apart from the management office staff?
We have the natural hazards team there as well. They provide insight on their work programs they do, and also the flood duty monitoring as well.
Cool, thank you.
Any further questions for Mel? I've got one here for you, Mel. Just on the back of the recent weather event I experienced, and I see you hear you talk about an alternate communication plan. It's just things, with the good old crisis that keep front of mind regarding a communication plan, and I presume that the number of the other districts in Otago are the same, but with the diversity that we have in the Clutha district, with a lot of different ethnicities, we're faced with Samoa and Tongan. There's quite a Filipino flavour now with the dairy components, and we've got a slight Chilean. But when it comes to communicating, well, we found it extremely difficult. One, because we had no power and we couldn't get any messages out there. But two, when we did, we're sending it all out in English, and we've got feedback. Well, I personally got feedback that they didn't understand what was going on. So it's just one of those learnings from the event. So I think moving forward, it's something to be considered. And the other thing that was front of mind for me was that we didn't have telecommunications in the room. And I felt like the kid at school at the back of the classroom with a stupid question when on day 2, I think it was, I asked the question, where are the comms? And that really nailed it home, and they actually thought we were part of the Southland. That's there's some good learnings, and that's how we learn. So just thought I'd bring that. But any other questions for Mel? Matt?
Probably just clarifying the nature of this group and the relationship with this group, with this committee. So there's a requirement under the national plan that Lifeline utilities participate in these groups. I think it's important to stress that we can't compel them. We're not regulators. there are a number of different models for this delivery across the regions. We've chosen in Otago to lean into this. We fund Mel's position. They brought a program outputs vulnerability study last year as an example. So we do lead into sort of facilitate and be the glue across there, but just acknowledging that it really is reliant on the appetite, firstly, of those involved and our ability to influence from this table and in other forums to get things moving in that space as well. So to that end, really, really happy that John's agreed to be a co-chair and influence from a governance perspective. Also, for further context, we have had 2 previous mayors from Queenstown chairing that committee, which has been really valuable in terms of getting that engagement across industry. So that's great. But just thought it was important to stress, what that community is and what our role, that sector is and what our role is in relation to it. I think it's quite important.
Mr. Chair, just reflecting on your observations about the recent response, although that issue about where people thought Clutha was geographically and which response it was part of, I think was reflected in some of the comments that came up in the Lifelines Group committee. So there's a need to better try and communicate more effectively where Clutha is in that respect, particularly during the response. But that issue of, I think, what's the term, Matt, linguistically and culturally diverse? So we've got a statutory requirement to ensure that we understand and meet that need. I would suggest that it's a key element that we need to build into the review of the plan going forward. How are we going to meet the increasingly diverse communities that we have, and Queenstown Lakes probably even more so. But like the community groups that were discussed earlier, often there's leaders in those communities who could provide that connection and do the translation, but we would need to include them in what we do. So something to look forward to.
And I think just to add clarity in relation to the Lifelines communications planning we're talking about here, it's around PACE planning is the acronym. So what would be primary, alternate, contingency and emergency communications. So it's the actual nuts and bolts of how we physically communicate is what we'll focus on. The broader communications plan is something that Erica focuses on as part of her public information management within the coordination centre. But for the purpose of the plan that we're putting together for Lifelines, it's the actual nuts and bolts of, are we using satellites, what sort of radio we're using, is it high frequency, ultra high, all of those sorts of things, and in what context. So that's the basis for that plan.
Mel.
Just recognising our role and what, is expected of us. If we've got utilities and knowing that you guys can't sort of direct in any way, if there's gaps in information or people not coming to the table with what's really needed for us to gain a really good picture, we sort of fed that information for an opportunity to address it through relationship.
Yeah, 100%. And if you look at, as an example, a lot of the other Lifelines updates across other groups, it's an annual report. Previously, this committee has passed a resolution to have this as a standing item on all agendas, and that's obviously a perfect opportunity for either Mel or John to feed back areas where we're having some challenges. And then obviously there's the ability to resolve it through political means if necessary.
Well, Mel, thank you for your report and update, and thank you for the work that you do. Oh, we've got another hand. Oh, Mel.
Just me again. This is probably a question directed to Matt, I think. And I guess it's in relation to the recent events and picking up some of your comments, Jock. The issues that came out of that with particularly power supplies for communications. I know ORC have formally written to higher above to sort of say sort something out here. This wasn't good enough. I'm picking there's a few challenges been raised in that, and that's sort of front and centre of Lifeline's minds as mind, the Lifeline organisation's minds as it is everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Mel's indicated, we've got that telecommunications group now actively involved as part of the generator management plan. So we've seen it, we've identified it, and we've put 2 and 2 together there. So hopefully they'll have quite an active voice as part of that planning process.
Yeah, because I think some of those lifelines organisations themselves might have had generators, might have deployed them, and maybe they didn't work too good for a while.
Oh, well, yeah, Mel, as I was saying, thanks very much for the mahi you do in this area. John, I'm bewildered why no one would know, but when Lawrence was the Clutha district was the Otago's first gold rush. That's where the national anthem was composed. Why they would think we were part of Southland, I'm so confused. I was quite distressed. So on that note, do we have anyone that will like to move the attainment? Yeah, now, thank you. NEMA, item 7.6, the purpose of this report is designed to provide an update on a recent joint initiative between NEMA and Met Service to display real-time warning information and preparedness advice on digital billboards across New Zealand prior to and during severe weather events. Erica.
Hi. Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. I will take the report as read and just make a couple of comments around this initiative. It's an initiative that has been developed between NEMA and a number of other agencies as highlighted in the report. It's another way that we can get information out to our communities. So we have a large suite of tools that we use in public information management. And it's at this stage, it's a pilot program. There are around, from memory, 10 to 15 billboards across Otago that could potentially have warning messages and the associated advice that commuters or residents may take depending on the event. The billboards themselves, it'll just be a rotating billboard, and say as an example, there's already 4 advertisements on there. The warning message and associated information will be sort of number 5, and it'll just continue to rotate. It's just it provides just another innovative approach on how we can communicate out to our community. So with that, I'll take any questions. And of course, we have NEMA in the room as well, who's available. Sean's available for questions too. Thank you.
Neil, I see you. Get your hand up.
Yeah, well, so that's so I didn't forget the question. Thanks, Erica. 15 in Otago. So can you give me some hints as to where? Because I'm trying to refresh my memory where they might be in Central Otago and Queenstown Lakes to start with. I didn't see one in Lawrence. Sorry, Jock.
Look, if you just give me a moment, here's something I prepared, and I'll quickly share my screen. And I'm hoping, can you see that? Can you see that map?
Yep.
Yep, great. So if I, let's just, sorry, it might be a bit difficult, but I can enlarge it. And there is one in Lawrence. No, sorry, not Lawrence, in Balclutha. There's one there, and I believe that's at the supermarket there. So you'll see that they're just scattered around. Dunedin City, there's around 8 there. And one in Alex, around 4 in Queenstown. So that, yeah, we only have a limited number across Otago.
So my follow-up question then to that is that what about the NZTA information signs? Are they another resource that could be made available?
Yeah, that's a conversation I've definitely had in the past with Nicole. If the event required us to be messaging, they're definitely open to us using those if we needed to.
Cool, thank you.
Mel?
I thought I'd sort of read this earlier and I can't find it, but are they ones that are already in our communities that are just community owned ones, or are they ones that are sort of owned by NZPA and are used in those individual areas? I'm thinking of like schools, vets, that kind of thing.
Yeah, they're owned by, they're already in public spaces, and I believe that they're owned by, different sort of companies around New Zealand. NEMA, sorry, I'm getting such really bad feedback. NEMA worked with a number of the digital billboard owners as a cohort, but Sean might be able to provide a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, so through the chair, just to build on what Erica said, my understanding is the Lumo network, and that's what the company that aggregates all the advertisers and different users of those billboards. And so if we were to have one of those go up, it will just become an additional in the rotation. So if there are 4 ads rotating every 10 seconds, then the warning will just come up as the 5th within that.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tamer.
Just on that, if it was like something critical, do you have the powers, or would it fall under the others, to override the ads and actually we're only playing the emergency message?
That's a good question, and I don't know off the top of my head. However, currently I know that they're not customizable because they're all based on the director's guidelines for consistent messaging. The recent wind event in October, so Canterbury CDM Group actually requested that they weren't displayed because they conflicted with the local and regional messaging, and so they were actually removed. But in terms of bespoke emergency messaging, I'll have to find out and get back to you. John.
Thank you. Yeah, following on from that question, I'd heard that those sort of concerns have been raised. So is there the ability for a group controller to put that information on those displays, or is it only run out of Wellington in some peculiar definition of localism?
So my understanding is they're all pre-agreed with thresholds determined with NEMA's comms team and net service themselves. In terms of the group controllers having influence on that messaging, that's another great question and something that I'll take back and try and get some more information to this group.
Thanks, right.
Richard.
John, there was quite a discussion at KEG about that matter and about either inconsistent messaging or the reliance on a general warning through the Met Service platform to be applied within a district without the sort of local environment influencing that messaging. So I think it is a really important one for us to stay across, is how this messaging works with the group or local PIN plan, because there is a real risk we end up with mixed messaging or the wrong messages.
Mr. Chair, yeah, I think this is, from a governance perspective, this is something we need, while the reforms are being put in place, multiple reforms, clarifying what roles, whose role is what, is going to be absolutely critical here, because it's questionable as to whether NEMA has any statutory basis for pushing information out at a local level to this extent anyway. I think it's a really good question. We've got a statutory responsibility to manage information about emergencies in our region. Yes, there's a requirement centrally out of Wellington as well, but emergency management is intended to be a locally driven enterprise, and I think that's a conversation we need to get seriously involved in. So I'm glad KEG have talked about that in detail. I think we need to support that from a governance perspective too, to make sure that our needs are met and not the job made easier, not the job not made harder for our local and regional people. Thank you.
Erica, once again, I'm drawing on a recent experience, and the question was asked, and I don't know who this question would be for, but you know, when a state of emergency, the alarms go off on the phones, it was asked of me, how come it wasn't activated for the Clutha district in that event? Because comms were down. Would have it still worked? And who is it regionalised? Can it be regionalised moving forward? Or?
Yeah, thank you for your question. So the answer is yes, it is regionalised. We have staff at the ECC who can send out emergency mobile alerts. We are just undergoing a process at the moment with NEMA where we're sort of moving away from a director's guideline approach to emergency mobile alerting and developing more of a technical standard. So at the moment that's under review and out for consultation with the groups. One of those things that has been considered, and you quite rightly note about sending out an emergency mobile alert once a declaration is made. We're really considering the criteria and the use of the EMAs because sharing the EMA is for people to actually take action. There's some sort of risk to maybe life or health, and the idea of an EMA is for people to actually keep themselves safe. And we could, sending out just an emergency mobile alert because a declaration's made may not be the right use of that. And that's something that I think we will see moving forward is there won't be as many emergency mobile alerts sent out once a declaration is made. We've made use of all our other channels, so media releases, radio interviews, social media websites, but not necessarily just for a declaration.
Well, thank you for that feedback. Just to add to the feedback though, we've got to be mindful too that there was no other forms of media or networks to send signaling out. There was a lot of anxiety out there where people couldn't actually contact their loved ones at home and they didn't know if they knew what was going on. And as a consequence, it turned out there were people at home that had no idea that we're having a major event. So I think, when you make those decisions, possibly you need to keep a wee bit of mindfulness around the whānau component too, and not just so much about the politics. So.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, also acknowledging that the tool is only as effective as the infrastructure it broadcasts on. So if the cell towers are down, the tool isn't available for use. So that's, I think, something we need to consider as well. So generally how it works in practice is that we identify, an area that we want to communicate to. We draw a polygon on a map around that area. It picks up all the cell towers within that geographical space and then sends a broadcast message. Again, entirely contingent on the cell towers in that space actually being operable to send the message. So in many instances, I think in Clutha we could have sent it, but I don't think it actually would have been received because most of the cell towers were offline.
Mr. Chair, Neil's there. I'm eager for him to ask this question before he forgets.
Yeah. You'll keep John Mitchell. As right as you might have been. In fact, I've been clever because actually for the next agenda item, I've put my question in the chat already in case I forget. I really just actually wanted to pick up on what John was saying actually about the control of messaging and how it's done. It is probably the single most important thing, and it's really important that while John was probably being a little bit tongue-in-cheek about the localism, it's in these events, that's where it's got to be and start from. That's where it comes from in the first instance. So just to stress the importance of that. So what I was wondering is that the Kiga picked it up. That's great, but should it get some further ramping up from other forums like this one or whoever else? So I'm just looking and saying, well, is there anything else we can do that's going to say, hey, listen, don't tell us what to do. We tell you what we want, and you can help us make it happen.
Any further questions for Erica or Matt? Oh, thank you too, Erica, for what you do for our communities. Moving on, do we have a mover to accept that we don't report? Mia Tama, seeing the Mia Mel. Right, 7.7 on the agenda, page 105. Righto, what do you got here, Matt? Provide initial information on the intentions for exercise Whakarite Wairiki. Kariti.
Call on John Maoni if he's online to present.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Chair. Just to report that we have a major annual exercise coming up in May next year, 20th of May to be exact. It's slightly different from what we have done previously, where we have exercised individual council EOCs individually on different days. This one will be a region-wide exercise that where all emergency centres will operate simultaneously. It's going to be based around a snow event across Otago, and it's going to be conducted across the entire day, but in a two-shift scenario. I think the key things is that planning is well underway with that. We're just getting to this final stages with the draft planning, ready to take out to various planning groups. And the warning order was just put out yesterday to our district emergency management advisors for them to take to your councils, indicating the upcoming exercise. However, most of the councils are already aware of the exercises going to be happening and of the date. So it will involve not only our district councils, but a number of our supporting agencies as well. So it's going to be a major event, and that's happening in May next year. So I'm open to any questions anyone might have specifically regarding that exercise.
Look, just in relation to this committee, we are eager to build in some inject elements around declaration. So if you can make yourselves available for that day, at least for the morning portion, we would appreciate it. A good opportunity for each of the councils to put the EMA staff to put scenarios together that you can consider. You know, we will have, as we said, emergency service stakeholders in the room as well. So it's a good opportunity to sort of put into practice the things that we spoke about as part of this morning's workshop. So just indicating as well that yes, it is to council staff, but if you're available and you can participate, we would appreciate it.
Neil.
Actually, my hand's still up from the last time. So, but anyway, I just put in the chat and further to what Matt just said. I'm out of the country that day. In fact, I'll be in Amsterdam on that particular day. So good luck, and I'll be much warmer where I'm going to be.
Mr. Jim, Matt, is there going to be an opportunity for particularly new mayors and potentially others to have a simulated media briefing in that context as well to build that capability?
Yeah, that's a good question. We've actually done that as a separate part of public information training, but it's certainly something we'll consider for the day and just see what we can physically manage within that concept. We'll have a look at it.
Thanks.
Any further questions for John? Just checking, Neil. Oh, no further questions for John. Hey, thank you, John, so much for what you do with your role in this as well. It's much appreciated. On that note, do I have a mover to accept the report? Yeah, Sophie and seconded Mayor Tamer. Thank you, John. Right, 7.8. Action review, corrective action implementation. So the purpose of this is to, and it's on page 109, to provide an implementation plan for the corrective actions arising from the Otago 24/7 severe weather event after action report AAR and the corrective actions assessment undertaken by the Emergency Management Otago. Matt, take it away.
So you'll see 3 recommendations of this paper to endorse all the actions currently underway, noting that there were 6 corrective actions defined as part of the after action review. 4 of those are already incorporated into our work plans. We're already doing those things. There were 2 other actions that came out of that, noting the direction of council chief executives and has already been discussed within the meeting today around the confirmation of available response staff resources for 2 shifts. So that's an item that will come back to our next KIG meeting early next year. And then a 3rd one around an increase in terms of training output from Emergency Management Otago staff. The report recommended a doubling of training output. That's a significant undertaking with our current resources, so we have suggested that it's something that we look at as part of a long-term planning process, and that will fold back into the regional council's health CP process that we will also bring back to this committee as well.
Sorry.
Richard, sorry, just less of a question, just more of on that last point. The CEDM group training was, and the resources required to double that training. There was also the issue of the ability for the staff within councils who fulfil those CEDM functions to be made available for double the amount of training they currently do. So there's two sides to that training equation that need to be brought together somehow in the planning, and then the sort of budgeting and time allocation. It's not. The issue is not simply at the group end, although we do have a challenge in terms of the resources Matt has available, but there's just as much a challenge at the other end in terms of the ability to make staff, almost all of the emergency management staff, as you will all know, come from within your organisations and on top of their day jobs. So it's not just as easy as freeing them up to double that training component. So there's a couple of things for us to work through there.
Neil.
I'd like to thank Richard for answering my question before I asked it. But thanks for that, because that is that, and what you've said, I think, is the key thing, is that even if it's not achievable with the current setup, it's something that it sounds like it's going to be always considered, and somewhere on the road, I'm picking that we'll need to find a way to try and make it happen. As we know, these things are happening more and more, and we need to have the best prepared emergency management Otago staff and council staff to undertake the roles that come in place. So I guess that's the intention.
So probably just to clarify, when we're talking about the training output, there are two areas defined in our current strategy. There's an initial training investment. So depending on what role you have there, it's several hours that need to be invested to get you up to speed across an introduction to coordinated incident management, an introduction to the EOC environment, and then 2 training sessions on the operational platforms that we use as well. So it's over sort of several hours to get functional team members up to speed. In terms of function leadership, it's about 4 days that needs to be invested. So it's a 2-day Sims 4 course, so they understand the doctrine to a high degree. It's a function leadership training course, as well as a function-specific training. So if they're leading a logistics function, we give them a day's training on logistics and how to manage that appropriately. Secondary to that is an annual training output that we have. So at the moment, we've committed to 8 hours. So that's about an hour a quarter that we have with staff with desktops, and a 4-hour exercise annually. The increase would be in that space, doubling to 16. So in real terms, it would likely look like probably a 1-hour training every month, and then the exercise. So I think in terms of context, that's probably what we're looking at rather than the 1 hour a quarter. It's 1 hour a month plus the exercise. So I think that's just a bit of context for you moving forward.
Any further questions? Would someone like to move that recommendation? Mayor Tamer, Mayor Mel. Thank you. We'll move on to item 7.9, controller appointment, Dunedin City Council. Page 115, the purpose is to appoint Mike Costello as a local controller for the Dunedin City Council.
For you around the appointment, as noted by the chair, with one recommendation of approving Mike Costello as local controller for Dunedin City. You'll see within the discussion that there's a brief bio of Mike around his suitability for that role, obviously supported by Dunedin City Council as well, for the matter for your approval.
Anyone got any matters arising? Comments?
Happy to move.
Oh, hang on, Neil, got an itchy elbow.
I've got a question, and then I was going to do something unusual. If I refer back in our agenda to page 49, and with Mike being appointed as a controller, that would mean under the controller section, of that table one, that would increase DCC to 4 all up. Is that where that fits in? I'm reading it right.
Yes, that's correct.
Cool. And then I'm happy to move the recommendations in.
And, sorry, Leah Sophie, second.
Yeah, I'm happy to second.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? Carried. Right. Item number 7.10, page 118. This report is to update the joint committee with the latest activity and matters that NEMA is working on. Is this one for Sean, is it? Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Kia ora. I'm happy to take the report as read. The only thing I want to highlight is just that the emergency management bill that is currently being written is expected to reach select committee very shortly. Government is committed to pushing that through prior to the end of this term of government. Obviously, I just wanted to acknowledge that there are a lot of other moving parts in terms of wider government reform. It would be inappropriate for me to comment on any of those, but just wanted to, at a high level, highlight the emergency management bill, and happy to take any questions on anything else in the report.
Matt.
Just in terms of how we tend to manage those submissions, obviously each council has the ability to submit on that, obviously within their own right. In terms of a sector submission, the special interest group for the group managers for CEDM come together and we'll put together a consolidated submission as well. That document will be available to this committee to review. That's very much from a practitioner's viewpoint. We also acknowledge that there are many or some instances where that this committee might not agree with aspects of that, as well as the coordinating executive group as well. So we tender those submissions from a practitioner's viewpoint, consolidated across the country. But again, for your review, and obviously those aren't binding on this committee at all. It's just a matter of update for your information.
Well, thanks, Mr. Chair. Has it been the practice of the Otago CDM group that you mentioned each TA can and regional council can make their own? Is there a tendency for there to be a group submission as well, collectively?
Generally, if we can manage it, acknowledging with many of these consultations that have happened in recent years, the time frame for feedback, we're talking weeks in many instances, and it's quite challenging to physically absorb the material, put something together, have everyone else absorb it, and then have a committee motion and get all of you together in that time frame has been really challenging. We'll certainly endeavour to do so, but in many instances, the time frames allowed are problematic.
Thank you. Neil's got his hand up, I think.
Gonna beat you to it, Neil. Sorry. Having a look through the NEMA Resilience Fund, great to see that 400 odd K went to AFA and Southland Initiative. Had Otago put in for any of that for projects?
We're not planning at this stage to put any in for this year. We have put in a resilience fund bid for the previous 2 years, and that's around the development of a website response page. Interestingly, we weren't successful with either of those bids, although noting that following our last bid, NEMA saw value in that and has decided to come to the party with funding and support outside of that resilience fund process. So we're moving that response page project forward outside of the resilience fund.
Mr. Chair. Oh, so Neil.
Neil.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to pick up on what John was saying, and given our statutory role we have, is it possible to set up within our remit that we can have a sort of separate subcommittee that can pull together some sort of submission to give weight to what happens from our partner entities type thing? Is that an opportunity for us to consider?
Is it?
I'd be in favour of that. I've seen it work well in other CDM groups. Yeah, just the coalition of the willing, people who've got the time and effort available to do so. It might be well worth doing in this case. But yeah, so then I'll come back for another question perhaps.
Anyone got some feedback on that?
Look, that's ultimately a decision for this committee, but we can certainly support any directive coming from here. That's fine.
I think if we go away with Matt and work on what that process might look like for the joint committee, noting it won't always be able to be by draft submission voted on at these meetings. So we could put forward something that enables that to be delegated to Neil as chair plus interested parties, and just include that in the next meeting.
Yep, that would work, I reckon.
You happy with that, John?
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd be keen to help with that. I had a question though. Just an observation. No, the question actually. So the funding that went to South the AFA though, is that the collective South Island wide AFA project? So therefore Otago had a part of that. Thank you.
No further questions for Sean? Would someone like to move? Set those notes there, Tamer. Yes, Sophie. Thank you. And now we'll move on to 8, general business. So as you can see there, the next meeting is scheduled for the 5th of March 2026. And location to be advised to be who generally coordinates this things would be Mariana.
So it's coordinated by our governance team, and they'll just work alongside Mariana because it does tie in with the Mural Forum meetings. So the date is confirmed. The location will be shortly, but there'll always be the online option as well. But we'll, our governance team will work with Mariana to get that sorted.
Oh, that'll be lovely. Thank you, Richard. As long as it's in Otago and not South, and I'll be more than happy. Anyone else like to add to any other business? No further business. Well, that brings us to a close then. With no further business. And since Peter has got into the flow with the opening karakia, I reckon he's got a bit of mojo to do the closing too.
Yeah. No worries. Whakatakata hau ki te uru, whakatakata hau ki te tonga, ki e makina, kina ki uta, ki e mataratara ki te hi aki ana ta atakura he tio, ka e auhu ti ei mauri.
Thanks everybody. I'm sorry I was such a pain online. Try not let it happen again. And thanks, Jock, for doing a sterling job.
You're right. Thank you, Neil, and that's around the bus again, please.
Tamer set you up for that, mate.